Hi, my name is Lily and welcome to my channel and welcome to my reading vlog for Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. So Icebreaker is an adult contemporary romance. It is a hockey romance. This one follows Nate and Anastasia. So Anastasia is part of the figure skating team at her college and Nate is part of the ice hockey team. There were two rinks that they practiced on, so they had separate rinks for practice, but the ice hockey rink gets destroyed and they suddenly have to share rinks for practice, which forces them into close proximity. So this is a forced proximity, kind of enemies to lovers romance, and I have heard some really mixed things about this book. So this has been all over social media and I am very excited to read it. I am buddy reading it with my friend Ian, so I will be checking in every 50 pages with you guys because that's our check-in point. This one is one that's been on my radar for a while. I am not a big fan of enemies to lovers, but I've heard this one is really funny and I love a hockey romance, which is why I was sold instantly. And yeah, I am very much looking forward to seeing how this book goes and whether I buy into the characters and the enemies to lovers romance, but also I'm just looking forward to the banter of the hockey team. I'm guessing that's going to be really fun. I have seen there are some trigger warnings for eating disorders. As someone who's in recovery from one, that's going to be an interesting read for me, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it is portrayed. And yeah, so that is what I'm going to be reading in this vlog. It is going to be spoilery because I want to give a full reaction, so if you don't want to see spoilers, maybe don't watch. Yeah, that is pretty much it. So I know in this book Anastasia is hoping to go to the Olympics and Nate is hoping to become a professional hockey player, so they both, it's quite high stakes for them how much practice time they get, but sparks begin to like fly between them as well. So I'm quite looking forward to it being a sports romance where they're both sports people, because often there's only one sports person in a sports romance, so this is a bit of a different vibe for me and I'm very much looking forward to it. So I'm going to get going with some reading and I'll catch up with you once I've read the first 50 pages. Okay, so I am now 50 pages in. First thing I wanted to say is, before the book even started, I really liked that at the very beginning of the book there was a content warning page and actually said like, this book is for over 18s only, it contains sexually explicit content, and I think that's actually really good. I think more cartoon cover romances should do that because I feel like sometimes they can look a bit like they could be shelved in YA section, or at least be YA friendly. And I don't want like parents who don't know books very well to accidentally buy these books for their teenagers. So I really appreciated that. So first of all, I love Ryan in this book. So Ryan is the friend and friends with benefits character in this book for our female main character Anastasia, and I really like him and I honestly wish this book was a friends to lovers romance with Ryan because I think he's really sweet. I really like how he... Do you mind? I really like how he is like, I don't know, looking after Anastasia and kind of trying to challenge some of the problematic behaviours she's displaying around food and like trying to offer her more food and make sure she's eating properly. I think that's really sweet. And I like how even though they're just friends with benefits and they both acknowledge they're not going to be anything more than that, he is being a genuine friend to her and looking after her, and I just think that's really lovely. On the other hand, Aaron, her teammate that she skates with, is awful. he can get in the bin. You can really clearly see where he has been contributing to a lot of her anxieties, to her eating disorder, and generally how he is trying to make her feel like anything that goes wrong is her fault, even though they are a team and he is at fault at times as well. And so I really don't like him. I'm surprised they live together. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this kind of plays out. And I'm really hoping he gets some kind of karma later on in the book, because he's awful. I really don't like him. However, I feel like we don't really know much about Nate yet. We have had some chapters from his POV because they do alternate, but I feel like they're not really focused on him. I don't really understand what his story is going to be in this book overall. And so I don't really feel particularly attached to him yet. I'm intrigued to see where it's going, but we will have to see. But I do like that it feels very realistic to the college experience. I know I haven't been to an American college, but they feel like university students. They feel young and silly and like they're a little bit immature, but they're trying their best and they have these big hopes and dreams, and that feels very real, and I really like that. It's reminding me of the Off Campus series by Elle Kennedy, and in a good way, and so that's making me really looking forward to reading some more of this. Okay, so 100 pages in, and this book is escalating quickly. Like, I had no idea what the chili rating for this book would be. I didn't look it up. I knew people were saying it was a steamy romance, but people say that about 2 chili books with only a couple of sex scenes and 3 chili books with like a decent amount of sex scenes. I have a feeling this book is going to be a 4 chili rating from me, which means that there's a lot of sex scenes but still some plot. Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like we've got to see a lot more of Nate in this section, and so he's definitely grown on me. I definitely like him a lot more. I thought the progression of their relationship didn't feel very natural to me. It did feel like the sexual tension came out of nowhere. I feel like I needed some more time of them bickering and being enemies before this happened, but I did like how the scene itself progressed and how they went from arguing and sort of teasing each other, and that progressed into the sex scene that we got, but it did still feel a bit rushed and a bit soon for their characters. But I thought what I like about it so far is how messy they still feel and how they're not making the best decisions. They're still college students, they're still having fun, and it's still really funny. So like, I love the hockey team so much. They're so funny. Like, they make this joke after Anastasia is like dropped and or she not dropped, she falls during a jump and she slides across the ice and hits her head, and Nate offers first aid and then it gets sent home, and one of the other guys on the team makes a joke about how she'd rather have a concussion than date him, and that was really funny. Like, I actually laughed out loud at that joke. So it's really, really good, really humorous. I do feel like I like Nate a lot more now, but it still feels like a quite Anastasia focused book, and it's been interesting seeing more of an insight into what it's like as a figure skater and the struggles she's having, and hearing some of the comments she's getting, especially from Aaron, is kind of sad. But I'm hoping we get to see again a bit more karma for Aaron, and just in general bit of a better experience for Anastasia than she is getting right now. Okay, so we are at page 150, and this book, I mean, I would start to say this is one for Tessa Bailey fans, and I am a Tessa Bailey fan. Ignore my hair doing weird things. It's definitely Tessa Bailey-esque to me, with some of the exhibitionism that we have seen in certain parts of this book. Like, oh my god. So in this segment we've had the Uber scene where Nate and Anastasia decide it's an amazing idea to get intimate in an Uber with like 5 people in it, because Anastasia sat on Nate's lap. They think that's fine, and they make noise. Like, they don't even try to be quiet because they're like, oh, everyone's so drunk and so loud, no one will know, ha ha ha. What? Like, what are you doing? That is not okay. Those people did not consent to this happening around them, and that poor Uber driver is definitely sober, and it may be noisy in there, but I suspect the Uber driver knew exactly what was going on. So I was not a fan of that scene. I mean, it was funny, but at the same time I was like, the Uber driver though. But I will say I love Henry. He's such a great little side character, and I'm really hoping we get a book about Henry. I haven't looked to see what future books in this series are going to be about, but I hope Henry gets his own book because he's been so sweet in this book so far. I love his little girl basket that he has with things like hairbrushes, tampons, shampoo, that kind of stuff. I think that's really sweet, and I love that the other guys know about it. Although I do think it was a little bit unfair that Nate basically stole it, and also accidentally cockblocked Henry. That was really funny, but I did feel really bad for Henry because he just seems so sweet. I'm looking forward to seeing what his eventual romance will be, because whoever he ends up with is just going to be adorable, and they're going to be so sweet together. Although I'm not convinced 100% that he's straight. I feel like there's some hints being dropped that he might have a self-discovery book coming his way at some point. But even if he is straight and he has a straight romance, that'd be really cute to see. This section did have a lot of sex scenes, like a lot, for a book like this. It definitely is ramping up in this section, but what I like about this is it's not becoming insta-love. So they're having this kind of recognition that they both are interested in each other, they're both attracted to each other, but they don't want to have like a full-on relationship. And I actually kind of support this in the way that they're doing it. I think it feels quite natural in that they're being friends with benefits, but I don't feel like it's being forced, or that, I don't know, it doesn't feel like insta-lovey. It doesn't feel like they're having sex because they've decided they're in love and they should be together like some other romance books do. It feels more like they're just exploring this, and the romantic relationship is kind of developing along the sides, and they're both not really noticing it yet. And I really like that. It's definitely a different kind of vibe, and I think it's funny and I think it's sweet, and it shows kind of the messiness of some college relationships. Like, I definitely knew people in university who started out this way that have been in relationships afterwards. So it feels very realistic, very real, and I like how sex positive it's being for both of them. And I like that there's a focus on consent. I think it's been mentioned before about like if one of them's drunk and the other isn't, they're not going to do anything, and Anastasia being very clear that she is like totally fine with Nate withdrawing consent at any time. I think it's really important that that's been mentioned, and it's really, really good in that sense. So overall, I think it's a good book so far. I just still feel like we're not getting enough of Nate. Like, this book feels very much like all about Anastasia and her problems, and it feels like even though Nate's friends make up most of the cast, Nate himself, I still don't really see how he's really going to have any growth in this book, how anything's really going to change for him. It would be nice if we could kind of like, I feel like a way the author could have gone was focusing a bit more on Nate always sacrificing himself and never looking out for himself and putting his team first, and maybe that being to his detriment. But at the moment, that doesn't feel like that storyline is going to come. It seems like at the moment that's being pitched as a very positive thing, and like it's not causing him any problems when it clearly is. So I do wonder if we're going to get an element of that in the second half of the book, maybe, because we're approaching sort of halfway now, but we'll see. shall we do an update? I have reached to page 200-ish now, so this section was a bit different to the other ones. So this is the part where Aaron slips and falls on something and gets injured and so can't practice for 2 weeks, and he tells everyone that he was told Nate was the one that put down the substance that he slipped on, so it was Nate's fault. And so he, like, the message gets passed up that it was one of the hockey players, and the hockey coach is having a massive go at them, saying like he's going to figure it out, and eventually Nate takes the fall and says it was him, even though it wasn't, to protect the rest of his team, because he knows if he doesn't play for 2 weeks he'll be fine, but the rest of the team might not. So he's not allowed to play, and then like later on in the book, they resume and Aaron can go back to skating, so that means Nate is allowed to play again, and then Aaron obviously has the dramatic moment where he drops Anastasia mid-performance and they only just qualify, but it means that he now is like not able to skate again, which means Nate will not be able to skate again. And honestly, I'm starting to suspect that Aaron is self-sabotaging here and something else is going on. Like, does he not want to go to the Olympics? Is that why he is getting injured and is trying to sabotage Anastasia with her like constantly making comments about her food and her weight and always blaming her, and then now getting suspiciously injured? Like, is this all him? Is he trying to sabotage it for some reason? Because it's kind of felt like he's not wanted it as much as her, because he's always putting everything on her. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. And it's also been a frustrating section for communication. Like, I can understand why Anastasia's so upset that Nate tells her, I definitely didn't do it, and then he goes and confesses and says it was him. But I do think her reaction's a bit over the top. Like, if this was me and I heard this had happened, I would be thinking, okay, maybe, you know, he's told me before that he's taken the fall for the team, so maybe he's doing that and this is him taking the fall, and I would like talk to him and try and find out what's going on. But I can kind of understand why she's struggling with it, because she has these like abandonment issues from her adoption trauma, and from her background as a skater. So I can understand where it's coming from, but I'm just sat there reading it going like, Nate, why did you not tell Anastasia that you were going to take the fall? Like, why would you not tell her that, and why would you not immediately reach out after you've done it? Like, why wait for her to be pissed off? So it's weird, and I can understand why she's believing Aaron over Nate, because she's known Aaron longer, and from her perspective, like, she doesn't have reason to disbelieve him. But then obviously towards the end of this section, she's starting to question it and starts to think that maybe Nate was telling the truth, and starts to let him back in again. So there was not a lot of sex scenes, but there's quite a lot of plot, which I actually really enjoyed. I'm finding it very interesting seeing what's going on, but I'm not really sure where this book is going. I'm wondering if it's starting to set us up for some kind of, I don't know, like, is it setting us up for Anastasia's dreams to crumble? Is it setting us up for she's not going to go to the Olympics? Is that where this book is trying to go? I don't know. And I'm not sure what's happening with Nate still. Like, he still doesn't have his own plot. Still don't know where he's going to go with this. But I really want to keep going. It's really addictive. And every time I have to pause for my buddy read, it's making me sad. I would normally binge this, but it's actually quite good because it is making me stop and think a bit more about it. So I'm not totally complaining. Okay, so at page 300 now, and this book is getting a bit weird. So they lasted like a month of just being friends before they decided to call that quits and to start having sex again. And in some ways I think that was a good thing, because I do worry that if they had kept trying to just be friends, it would have broken them, and they would have maybe, I don't know, started to have a lot of tension, and for that to be like the reason they became distant, that could have been like not a third act breakup, but like the peak of the book, the main conflict in the book. But that's not happened. The sex scenes are still kind of copious. Still, some of them feel like they're coming out of nowhere, but they're okay. They're fine. They're well written, so can't like criticize them too much. So we had the big fight between the hockey guys and Aaron and his friends, and this is when they finally told Anastasia what they know about all the things that Aaron has been saying. Kind of weird that we've not been told about this before in Nate's POV, because it sounds like he is aware of some of this. But I think it was quite interesting that the hockey guys knew that Aaron was criticizing Anastasia to their coach, and nobody told her until she like found out that they had a big fight with him. Like, that feels like, of all the things that they knew that Aaron was doing, that feels like something they should have told her about, because that's quite impactful on her potential career. So I was quite surprised, really, that they hadn't told her that, and we hadn't heard mention of it from Nate's perspective. But I'm glad she knows. I'm just not sure how this is going to now pan out with her skating with Nate, because they're supposed to be competing in like another 4 weeks, and how are they gonna skate together after she knows all of this and he's said all these things? And if they don't skate this competition, is that it? Is her career over? Will she be able to find a new partner? It's a weird one. I don't really know where it's going. And I feel like her skating career is really on the edge right now, and I don't really see how it's going to come to a conclusion without her just giving up, which would be really sad. Nate still doesn't have any plot. Nate still has no plot. He has no character growth. Nate is just Nate. I like that he's helping Anastasia, but I do feel like the eating disorder rep feels kind of icky to me, because I was expecting there to be a bit more of a struggle with it, but it's kind of just like she was told, oh, you're not eating enough, and she'd been like, okay, I'll try to eat more. And there's like a brief mention of, oh, you know, like the coconut milk or whatever it was going into the curry gave me a little bit of anxiety, but it's like the only mention we get of her struggling with increasing what she's eating. So I feel like that could have been done a lot better. It didn't need to be graphic and like really triggering for people with eating disorders, but I feel like it's a really inaccurate representation of, oh, you know, you get a boyfriend and the boyfriend tells you you need to eat more and magically your eating disorder is cured. Not really. So I was a bit disappointed with that rep in there as well, especially because they specifically said at the beginning of the book about eating disorders, and as much as this is disordered eating, it doesn't feel like it's really eating disorder rep, because it is so like there's no real like mental illness element going on with it that we're seeing. Maybe it's just not being told to us. I did really like that they've gone home for Christmas and that Nate is meeting her parents. It does feel a bit soon, like they've not known each other that long, but I guess things are moving fast in this book, and it's nice that they're like getting on with each other. But that scene where her ex-boyfriend is his waiter, or is the waiter for the family, like, is that gonna serve any purpose other than like Nate sees one of her exes? It was really weird. I wonder if that's gonna come back or not. Something that is getting to me and is making me worried is the fact that they've decided to stop using protection around the same time we hear that Aaron has been accusing her of baby trapping, or that she's going to attempt to baby trap. And I am really worried this author is foreshadowing for an unexpected pregnancy. I really hope that's not where this book is going. I don't mind unexpected pregnancies in romances. I'm kind of like, I don't mind it as much as long as it serves a purpose and it's dealt with realistically. But if the unexpected pregnancy is the reason that she gives up on her skating career, I will be really, really disappointed. Okay, it's another bed update because that's the vibe. This is a very dramatic section. We have Anastasia nearly drowning and then also having a confrontation with Nate's dad. Hello. Which was a lot. The drowning thing was really weird. Like, it was a very traumatic experience for it to just kind of happen and then be over. It feels like this book is doing this a lot, where there's like really random things where like they see each other's exes and there seems to be no purpose to it. Like, it just seems to be like putting in little dramas that don't do anything. Like the drowning thing was really weird, and I found it kind of strange that like she's a figure skater and she never knew about like being careful on the ice, but also that Nate never warned her about being careful on the ice. It was weird, and I think the characterization of his dad was strange to me. About whether or not he actually liked Anastasia was kind of strange. I did like how Anastasia was with Nate's sister when she met his sister, but I feel like we could have done with some more page time on that. It was a very weird section. I can't say I really enjoyed this section. I found it quite confusing. Obviously they like admit they love each other finally. I think that was this section, and that was nice. It just felt like the rest of the section was very confused and I wasn't really sure where all of that was coming from. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where it's going, but at the moment it's kind of losing me a little bit. Okay, I have finished Icebreaker. So I actually listened to the end of it while I was at the gym, which was a choice, but I thought that was the best way of me getting to finish this book, and I did finish it. I think this is going to be a 4-star rating from me. I think once I run it through core parts, we're going to come out as a 4. Although in my heart, I feel like it's a little bit more of a 3 or a 3.75. So I really enjoyed it. It was really fun, and I definitely want to read more from this series. I think my biggest gripe with this book is that Nate just doesn't have a plot. He just doesn't have a plot. Like, there's no growth for Nate. He doesn't really change. He doesn't really have any character flaws that we get to like think about more. He just kind of is, and it's all about Anastasia. And I think that was quite disappointing. I was waiting for him to kind of have like a self-growth moment, maybe realise he's a bit overprotective of his team or something like that. But no, and we never really get to see how any of this kind of like bans from the ice and bans from playing could potentially impact his future career, all that kind of stuff. It just was a bit lackluster for him, and that was a bit of a shame. So in this final section, we have Anastasia and Lola move out of Aaron's place, which I think is good, because obviously now we know about the reality that Aaron was lying. I'm disappointed that the guy that told Nate didn't then go and tell on Aaron about the truth behind the broken arm, but I'm glad that Anastasia went and did it and that Nate got his like justice, I guess, and that Aaron has moved on. I think it was a good choice for Anastasia to go solo, although it is a shame that she can't do like couple stuff anymore. But yeah, I get it's going to be difficult for her to like get used to a new partner in time for the Olympics. So going solo was good, and obviously she got it to the Olympics, so that's amazing. Very, very happy for her. I really liked that ending. I thought it was very satisfying. I just wish there was a bit more like nefariousness behind what happened with Aaron. Like, I wish it was a bit more plot twisty and like he had been self-sabotaging rather than just it was an accident and then he decided to take Nate down with him. So there was but I still thought it was good. It was just that, you know, I would have liked that twist, but it wasn't a bad twist that we got. So on to the epilogue. I know the epilogue is very controversial. A lot of people don't like it because obviously the epilogue has the accidental pregnancy. I didn't hate that she gets pregnant. I wasn't mad about that, but what I didn't like was that it kind of implies that her skating career is over and that she got to do her one Olympics and won her medals and that's it for her now, but that Nate gets to keep on playing in the NHL. And I wasn't a fan of that side of it. Like, I don't mind if they want to have kids or if they have an accidental pregnancy in an epilogue. Like, people were calling it the pregnancy trope when I've looked up reviews, and I don't think you can't call it the pregnancy trope when it's an epilogue. Like, in my opinion, the pregnancy trope has to kind of happen in the book. So I think it is not a pregnancy trope, it's just an epilogue where she gets pregnant. But yeah, I do think it's a shame that it's kind of feels like the whole book led up to her having this Olympics moment, and instead of us getting to see her at the Olympics in the epilogue, we see her having finished the Olympics and now pregnant. But I think it was sweet. They were very sweet together, and I do think they'd be good parents. I think for romance novels, a lot of the time you read a book and you finish it and you think, yeah, they'll be together for a few years, but I don't see it long term. Whereas for Nate and Anastasia, I do think I see this going long term, because they had really good communication, really good boundaries with each other. I thought they were actually quite healthy. And so I do see this one going long term. I think the 4-star rating is kind of based on my enjoyment of the book. I thought the characters were really interesting. And the writing was very compelling, but I think objectively it's probably less than a 4-star, because there were a lot of like really contrived dramatic moments that never really contributed to the plot, like them bumping into each other's exes. The bit where she like drowns doesn't seem to really have much of an impact, even though surely that would be a long-term trauma. There's just lots of things like that where I think she was trying to create drama so that she didn't have to do a 3rd act breakup, but I feel like we could have leaned more into the Aaron drama and had that be the main drama, and not had all of these side weird dramas that never really had a point. And so as much as they were interesting to read, I was reading it thinking like, you're just putting things in for the sake of drama, but not actually thinking about how it would impact them long term. But I think overall it was still a really fun read, and I would recommend it if you're a romance reader, especially if you like hockey romance. It's not really enemies to lovers, it's just kind of a tension thing, but I did like that it wasn't a love at first sight sort of situation. So that is it for this vlog. I hope you enjoyed seeing my thoughts as I read this book. If you've read it or you want to read it, let me know in the comments, and also let me know what you rated it if you have read it. And if you'd like to leave me a comment just to let me know that you were here, leave me some kind of ice cube or ice related emoji in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content from me. All of my social media links are in the description below. And thank you again for watching. Bye.